Hello, my friend, and welcome to Security, hosted by me, Johnny Seifert. This is a Celebs mental health podcast where I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same mantra as me, then whether you're watching or listening, leave a 5-star rating, click that subscribe button, and leave a review. And let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. Now, let me tell you about my guest today. My guest today, you will know him because he's been on my podcast about 100 times. He's my mentor and the one person I look up to for guidance. I know that we're all supposed to pray to a God, but to me, he is my God. With a new series of Mad at First Sight UK and Celebs Go Dating coming out this year, which shows his expertise on, his book, Find Love, is out to buy now. And with thanks to TUI Blue for setting up this interview, I'm delighted to welcome back to Security. It's Paul C Brunson. Hello, Paul.
Yay! I feel like, has it been 100 times?
Probably. I don't think there's anything I don't know about you.
I tell you what, you are well researched. Can I say that's very impressive. I think every time I come on, I big you up in a different way. I'm going to big you up in this way: is that a lot of I think people take podcasting lightly these days. They think they can just jump behind a mic and do it, but it takes real skill to not only do the interview, but more importantly, to do the preparation, do the research. You are always very well researched, and this is important.
Well, that's very kind of you. But I think it's when someone like you comes on as well, it's so important to be because, I think when you brought out your book, Find Love, the amount of interviews you did, the amount of podcast requests, I think there was 1 week you did 26 interviews in a week. And, the amazing thing of that is everyone wants you. Everyone wants to have that little nugget of your brain for that hour. And I think, I'd love to know for your side, you know how successful you are. I don't need to tell you that. You know what you've done. You know your successes. You know you brought out a book. You know you're always on TV, etc. What did that validation do for you, though, when everyone is asking to speak to you? And, like I said, in that week, you've got 26 different interviews, 26 hours where people are trying to pick different parts of your brain out.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, and I'm not just saying this, I don't feel like I've quote unquote made it. I honestly don't. I feel like I am making it. I feel like I'm in the process. I always liken my life to the practice and the game. And I feel as if I've now just stopped practicing and I've now entered the game. But we're only 2 minutes into the first quarter of the game. So I don't feel like I've done 80% of what I'm put on the planet to do. So just so you know, that's truly how I feel. But whenever there is demand for me, I feel blessed. I truly do. And I always take a minute and pause and appreciate it. Like even now, I'm looking at the list of there's different interviews I'm doing today. And when I see your name, immediately what I think about is my very first interview that I ever had in the UK going back 5 years, now almost 6 years, was with you. And I distinctly remember that. And so I think always taking a minute, pause, stay in the moment, be appreciative is very important. Eckhart Tolle wrote the book. He wrote a million books, but The Power of Now, that is in essence what the book is about. It's about spending a moment in the moment.
Incredible, beautiful words. And I think, like you said, you've not made it yet, but you're about to make it because at Flight Studios, it's you and Davina McCall and a couple of others are working with Steven Bartlett on his brand new podcast platform. You've obviously done a podcast before. What's going to make this podcast and platform different for you to get you that bit more of making it?
Can I just underscore it? See, that's how well researched you are. That announcement came out 30 minutes ago, and you were on it. You were on it.
I've got Google Alerts set for you permanently. Actually, that'd be a bit weird.
The short of it is I'm ecstatic. It is a project that I lose sleep over because I'm so excited about it. I think the big difference is Steven Bartlett and his team. They have they have a very proven track record around doing unprecedented things. And to know that I have that team surrounding me is, once again, it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
So what is the plan? Can you talk about what this podcast you're going to be? Because it was a very weird kind of press release that didn't really necessarily say what you and Davina and the like are doing.
That's intentional. The short of what I'm doing is it is a podcast, but it's a little bit more of a podcast. We're calling it a full-on show that's going to land all over the world. And I will be covering, in particular, important conversations that we need to talk about with regard to relationships. Looking at, I love all the nerdy stuff, studies. I love data, and I love breaking it down and figuring out how it can apply beneficially to our lives. That's exactly what I'll be doing. But I'll be doing it all around the world.
How important is that for you, though, to be worldwide? Because, you had that big presence in America with Oprah Winfrey. You came over here 5 years ago. You've done Celebs Go Dating, done Married at First Sight. a show like Married at First Sight is so universal anyway on the Channel 4 player that, it's picked up around the world, same as I'm watching Married at First Sight Australia right now, New Zealand, etc. How important for you, though, is to have that presence worldwide, not just with TV, but now with podcasting as well?
Yeah, I love that. That really resonates with me because I literally just came back from Berlin and Prague and went downstairs in my hotel in Berlin, and the two ladies sitting next to me were like, "Hey, we know who you are." Got on the train to go to Prague, and literally someone walks by and like, "Hey, I know who you are." It's a good feeling because when they say, "Hey, I know who you are," there's a smile and there's a positive association with it, which means that I've somehow made a positive impact on their life, and I want to continue to do that all around the world. The world's a big place, over 200 countries, and so I want to continue to grow the footprint.
Amazing. Well, look, let's talk about Find Love. It obviously, this is going to be my Bible. I've got already mold on it because I've already used and abused it. And
I like that. I like that.
Well, so what happened was I read it 2 weeks ago. And then last week I went on a date and I went, okay, Paul says on page go on a coffee date. And it's the first time I've ever done a date, which was at breakfast time. It was 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's a coffee in Starbucks. And oh my God, I can't tell you, it was the best date I've ever been on. Your advice.
The crowd goes, what? Johnny, that was, you know what? I'm happy. Like, I'm just happy for you.
Well, that's so kind. Did you know how long I've been single? But seriously, it's so interesting how an hour date can work and how a coffee date is so different to a drinks date in the evening.
Oh, yeah, it's completely different. Namely, it's about intention. I know that you're looking for a long-term committed partner, one partner, right? And I think that the time of day is the great indicator as to what's going to pan out and what's not. If you invite someone to a coffee date early in the day and they deny you, they're not interested in a long-term partnership. They're just not. And so I think that there are these quick things that we can do that have proven themselves out over time and over the data to suggest what someone truly wants and desires.
I think that's it. And also it's that thing of you're making time for each other around your busy schedules, but you can meet someone an hour earlier before you start your day and have that moment with them and that intensity and know that you can still get on with the rest of your day. And again, all thanks to your book. But why is that? Why are we so programmed now to be talking online? And yet when it comes to dating, we're going back to the 50s and being really traditional about it.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing all of the above, though. Dating has never been more challenging than today. Finding a partner has never been more challenging in the history of the world than today. And there's many different, there's many reasons for that, but never. So we're dating in a variety of ways. We're dating like some people are dating like they're in the 50s. Some people are dating, strictly online. Some people say, you know what, I'm going to the old school. I'm literally going off of, pheromones and how you smell. It's this wide territory, and that's what makes it challenging. But also that's where the opportunity lies, because this is the first moment in time that we have an opportunity to date, quote unquote, out, right? Mm-hmm. Different religion, different ethnicity, different nationality. When I started matchmaking 15 years ago, most people would only want to meet someone who lived within 20, 25 miles of their home. That was it. Whereas today, most people are open to dating someone outside of their country.
I hate to use 20 as the barrier when my dating on the apps is 8 miles and you've gone for 20. You think 20 is bad? I've gone for 8.
Oh my gosh. I need to work with you. There's
a lot of what you need to do. But then you get these apps like Bumble and Tinder, obviously, which you work with, so disclosure there. And Hinge, etc. And they all start putting prices on it. And so, you've got gateways to go, okay, well, yes, you can date around the world, but it's going to cost you X amount to open up your profile. Or we're going to give you double the amount of attention if you pay X amount.
Right.
The question is, I suppose, when you have that idea of money, and I think I'm right in saying that if you're on a gay dating app like Grindr, you have to pay for it full stop when you join. How do you put a price on that? Because does it look too desperate to do it? What does that do for the self-esteem of going, I have to pay for it, and yet everyone else does it for free? And also, then does it all the apps not just become a business? And I don't want to talk about Tinder because you work with them, but if we generalize, the business side to these dating apps versus actually trying to help people find love.
Yeah. All right. So I love this question, but really what this question is about, it's about well-being,
Mm.
you know, and you know, I write about this quite a bit in the book Find Love. So it's important for you to have high well-being before you're on the apps. It's important for you to have high well-being before you start dating. It's important for you to have high well-being before you go on, and I know we'll talk about it, before you go on holiday, right, with your partner. And the reason why you want to have high well-being is because what it does is it means that you're not looking for the public to validate you. So if you have high well-being and you go on the apps, you have no problem paying or not paying based on how you feel opposed to how you believe everyone else is going to think about that thing. So that's the reason why well-being, it truly, it begins and ends with our well-being.
Well, it's interesting because there's two aspects of your book that really I jumped at. The first is on page 23, and it's about attachment styles. And I realized I'm anxious, preoccupied. So I need the intimacy, I need the closeness. I worry about the validation from the partner. I need to have the reassurance, and I sometimes feel insecure in relationships. The other thing is on page 79, you talk about the direct, indirect, avoidant, disavoidant, and those communication styles. And what's
Yes.
interesting is we've always based everything on love languages. You know, if you talk to anyone, it's like, what's your love languages? But actually, the communication style and the traits that you hold are probably more important than love languages, but we don't actually talk about them enough.
This is one where I don't want to, Gary Chapman, Dr. Gary Chapman, I love him. But I think this is where things have become a bit dangerous in that we've put too much emphasis on love languages. You know, I see it all the time, especially in filming. We're filming Married at First Sight right now. We're getting ready to go into Celebs Go Dating. And you see the contributors, the contestants and the celebs, now they use the phrase love language more than anything. More than anything. And, you know, I think one is, do you truly know what it means? And then secondly, do you realize that love languages was not even based on any empirical evidence? No studies. It was observational. And I think that's why it's important to understand that what's more important is what you just said. What's more important is our well-being. What's more important is our attachment style. What's more important is our form of communication. Much more important than our love language.
I completely agree with you. Well, look, you've mentioned TUI Blue and holidays. Let's talk about that because I love TUI. I've only ever gone on holiday with TUI. Thompson the dog, which is their mascot, is my biggest champion. There's a song, which I presume part of this research, you've learned the Thompson the dog song.
I believe that our holiday persona is even more important than our love language. It's a bold statement, but I'm going to say it right now. Our holiday persona is more important. And the reason why is because that will dictate how comfortable you are on the holiday to encourage you to be your vulnerable, authentic self. And ultimately, you need that vulnerability in order to connect with someone emotionally. So if you want a great holiday, you need to know your holiday persona. Very important.
The only problem with that is it almost becomes a make or break holiday because you're looking for someone's flaws. If you're like, oh, I don't really know, you're like, okay, I'm going to look for my red flags. I'm going to look for my amber flags. I'm going to look for my green flags. And so almost you're going in with the intention of a questionnaire to go, okay, this is a little test. Do they tick all my boxes that I want ticked?
Well, no, not necessarily, right? I think that you could look for red flags or you could look for green flags. It's like being the pessimist or the optimist, or being, as Dr. Carol Wick says in one of my favorite books, Mindset, being closed-minded or open-minded. So to know your persona and to know your partner's persona only creates opportunities for you. So for example, one of the personas is called a cultural connoisseur, right? I am a cultural connoisseur. It is me from A to Z, right? I'm super curious. I love a good tour. Sometimes when I go on a holiday, I'll literally go on 3 tours in a day. Whereas my wife is more of what we call a romantic relaxer. Book on the beach. Now, you think about this. You would think that we would need 2 completely different holidays, right? It would be a mess. But if you know that ahead of time, you could pick the destination that accommodates that. You could also determine the activities and the schedule of the day that accommodates that. And then it leads to compromise and it leads to learning. So this is the reason why knowing the knowledge ahead of time is so important. That's the reason why you read in the book, my book, right? To have the knowledge ahead of time. So it's actually, I think it creates opportunity and not issues and flaws.
So when one goes onto the TUI Blue website for the first time and you've logged on and it says, you know, what airport are you going for? That's fine. what dates you go, and that's fine. Then it comes up with cities, countries, what you're doing. Like you said, if you've got a beach holiday versus a cultural holiday, how do you make that mishmash of the middle? Because, you know, like you said, when you're in Berlin, you got your nails done, you went on a nice little walking tour. I see everything. Um, you
Look
know,
at this. Look at this. Look at those nails. Look at
oh,
those nails.
beautiful, beautiful. Versus going to a beach holiday, how do you make that compromise? Because if someone's only used to the all-inclusive life and someone's only used to having bed and breakfast and going out for lunch and dinner, where is that compromise? They're two completely different types of holidays.
All right, this is going to sound super privileged because I literally just came back from a holiday yesterday.
That you
But
wish you were at more, but you had to work today, and I know it's so hard. I wish I could have stayed longer.
you are so bad. You're so bad. So I land back in London, right? Land in London, literally go on to the TUI Blue app. And my wife and I are in the airport talking about, well, where should we go next? And what's great is you can identify the activity. So here's what we did. We looked for, we don't want to go with our kids. So you can opt for just the two, right? Second, we were very bougie. So we said we want a 5-star. This is very important. We want a 5-star. And just off of those two, you can begin to see what TUI serves up to you as far as options. And there's actually one particular resort and one in Zanzibar that we will be headed to. Now, the reason why I say that is because we knew ahead of time. We discussed what characteristics, what we were interested in, why we're interested. We went on together, we identified. So that's the matching process. And to me, that Blue app is like a dating app for resorts. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So that's what I would recommend you do.
Yeah, but the only problem is I love watching your kids go on holiday because I love when they try new food because they get so excited. I think they went to, did you go to Glasgow or Edinburgh and you had the deep fried Mars bar? You had something and they were in shock at it.
Oh yeah, they loved it. They had tripe and dressing when we were in Cork. Oh man, they had it all. I mean, actually in this last one, let's see on the wild side. No, they had like goulash and pork knuckle and that kind of stuff. And what we do is we don't tell them ahead of time. They just, as you know, they just eat it and then we tell them what it is afterwards.
So you didn't give them any squash then because you don't like squash, do you?
I don't like squash. I mean, you've put me on to squash. There was only one time in my life that now I've liked squash, but I typically don't.
So you mentioned Married at First Sight you're filming at the moment. Obviously, last year was just incredible. Everything that happened with Ella was incredible. Great for diversity, great opening up certain conversations. And I had Ella on here, and it was an incredible education into how she lives. And I've had Erica, and I've had a couple of the others as well. What are you going to do this year to make it stand out? Because it's always like, what more can we do? We know what's next. So what is next for this year's series?
Yeah, this is, and I know people say this all the time, but hopefully, our friendship is strong enough where you truly do buy what I'm about to say, and that is this is the most special Married at First Sight, and the reason why is the level of authenticity, and that is not shading any of the previous contributors, because I think every contributor has come on with some element, some desire to be in a partnership. I think you could debate how strong that desire was, but I think everyone there was an element of, okay, I'm looking for a partner. And I always say it's not mutually exclusive. It's not, I'm looking for fame or I'm looking for a partner. You can look for both. But in this particular series, you have a group of people, some of which have no social media. It's like you have a group of folks who are, I think, disproportionately at the highest level of desirability around love. And that by itself makes this such a special project. And I think this is the type, this is what you, for me, this is why I do what I do. Right. And I think you in particular are going to love it because I know some of the gripes that you've had in the past, just a few have been around this. I think you're going to love it.
Well, I think it's a good balancing act between the UK and the Australian one because the Australian one this year, there's so many scandals. One even going, I think it was episode 15 where one of the husbands said, "I hope my wife goes off with another guy and she's got a free pass to sleep with another husband so I can sleep with another wife." And those scandals there are so different to obviously when we have a scandal. It's not really a scandal compared to Australia. So that's Married at First Sight. Celebs Go Dating got recommissioned. Finally, at last, it's now in the news. It's public, which you didn't tell me when I last saw you. Thanks for that. What are we going to expect this year? Because again, the press release from Channel 4 said, this is going to be the best series ever. It's going to be renovated. It's going to go big. Da, da, da. So what's the plan for this year? We've had the brunches. What's next?
Yeah. So what's interesting? So this is series 13. 13.
Unlucky for some.
Oh my God. I keep saying that literally they're going to have to wheel Anna, myself, and Tom, Tara in a wheelchair out in a second. Like last year, I think the digital numbers were the highest ever for Celebs Go Dating. A lot of people liked the introduction of brunches. They liked the fact that we are now bringing the celebrities together and they're interacting a little bit more. So I think you'll probably see, and by the way, I don't know, but I think you'll see more of that because we haven't started filming. You'll probably see more depth around the celebrities. So last year we had fewer celebrities than we've ever had, and that gives each celeb more time to breathe. You can go into their life and see what they do, how they make money, what do they do, like what does their home look like? I think you'll probably see a lot more of that. And then I think you'll also see more delineation between what I do versus Anna, or what Anna does versus Dr. Tara, right? I think you'll see us to form fit more so into our zone of expertise.
Is this why we bring back the classroom of The Office, where you all have your little desks now rather than sharing?
Yeah, I think there's debate of what we're going to do with the office setup. What would you like to see in the office setup? This is important because literally the decision's being made right now.
I think you either sit around in a square or you just have some sofas. Like in Selling Sunsets, the way they've got their desks like that. Yeah. So maybe it's you've got the sofa and you've got the desks all as one. Because the problem is at the moment it was like, and look, and it's really hard for Dr. Tara to come into a series like that when it's so established with the way you and Anna are and the fact that Tom's downstairs. But it felt very jaded because you're like, well, hold on a minute, they don't normally sit like that. So it needs to be a way. Maybe it's like a loose women style desk. You all sit around
so
like
around.
The view.
Yeah.
And you just have one camera facing out.
All right. And then you like Tom, and then he goes downstairs when a celeb comes in. You like that too?
Yeah, because that's Tom's zone. We know Tom's the safety net. He's the one to be vulnerable with, and then he comes, and then they come. Because if they're in trouble, someone like a Bear or someone who's going to get in trouble, like Miles, for example, they need to have the fun bit of Tom, but then they need to also get serious. And that's where you and Anna and Tara come in. My thanks to TUI Blue for setting up this interview, and for Paul for his book, Find Love. It's out to buy now. It's a brilliant Bible. Go and buy it. Try not to get mold in it like I did. If you want to know more about Paul and you actually want to know his history and why he is amazing as he is, there's 100 episodes in Security and Secure. Go and check them out. There's also episodes of Anna Williamson and Tom Red Wilson and Charlene Douglas and all the cast of Celebs Go Dating America at First Sight. They're all in the Security and Secure library. Go and check them out. And if you enjoy Security and Secure, give a thumbs up, leave a 5-star rating, and click that subscribe button. And let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. On social media at Security and Secure Podcast, at Johnny Seifert on Instagram, at Johnny Seifert 92 on TikTok. Where are you, Paul?
I am on Paul C Brunson on all those places.
And it's where you put inspirational quotes, you put little photographs, you do little quizzes, you do everything. Go and check him out. I'm Johnny Seifert. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.